Welcome. Tonight, we journey back to medieval Europe, to a time when entire towns were shaped by one immense endeavor, the building of a cathedral. These Gothic structures, with their high vaults and glowing windows, still inspire awe. Yet their beauty was born of long years of labor, patience, and countless hands at work. Let your thoughts move gently with the rhythm of history, as steady as the laying of stones, guiding you toward rest. Imagine yourself in a medieval town at dawn. Bells ring, and workers step from their homes, carrying chisels, hammers, or wooden mallets. They walk toward the vast construction site that dominates the square, where scaffolding of timber poles rises against unfinished walls. Masons shape stone with steady blows, chips scattering underfoot. Carpenters cut beams and build wooden frames to support arches as they rise. The air is filled with sound, iron on stone, saws through timber, footsteps over planks. Laborers move constantly, hauling mortars, carrying blocks, sweeping debris. Their pay is small, their tasks repetitive, yet the cathedral depends on them. At midday, bread and cheese are eaten quickly, often in the shadow of the walls. Then work resumes until the light fades. The rhythm is unchanging. Toil, eat, sleep, return. A single project might last a lifetime, and many workers will never see it complete. There are risks, slips from scaffolding, stones falling from above, but the work continues. The cathedral is seen as more than a building. It is a house of God, a symbol of faith and pride. Each small task, each day's labor, contributes to something far greater than the individual. And so the builders' lives move forward, steady and unhurried. Their hands shaping stone that will endure for centuries, even as their own names fade into silence. While countless hands built cathedrals, it was often the vision of one leader that set their course. In the 12th century, that leader was Abbot Suger of Saint Denis, near Paris. His name is remembered not for the stones he cut, but for the ideas he brought to life. Suger believed that churches should reflect the glory of God through light and beauty. At a time when most buildings were heavy and dim, he imagined soaring walls and windows that poured color into sacred space. He wrote of light as a bridge between the earthly and the divine, a way for the soul to rise toward heaven. At Saint Denis, Suger oversaw a transformation. Thick Romanesque walls gave way to slender columns and pointed arches. Ribbed vaults carried weight upward, allowing builders to open space for stained glass. These changes did more than alter the structure. They reshaped how worshippers experienced it. To enter was to move from darkness into radiance, surrounded by color and height. Though Suger was not an architect himself, his role as patron and guide was essential. He gathered craftsmen, approved designs, and managed resources. His influence extended far beyond his abbey, inspiring the Gothic style that spread across France and beyond. For the workers, his vision meant endless labor, cutting, hauling, assembling, yet for Suger, it was the realization of faith through stone and glass. His words remind us that cathedrals were not only buildings, but symbols of a world where heaven and earth seemed to touch. From the steady blows of masons to the lofty ideals of an abbot, we see how every cathedral held both toil and vision woven together in lasting form. As cathedrals rose, they carried with them layers of meaning beyond stone and glass. Builders left behind not only walls and towers, but patterns, symbols, and secrets that still draw curiosity. One mystery lies in the geometry itself. Many cathedrals were planned using simple ratios, circles, triangles, and squares, repeated again and again. These shapes gave harmony to vast spaces, guiding both structure and beauty. To stand within such a building was to sense order, even without knowing the mathematics behind it. The stained glass windows added another layer of wonder. Sunlight poured through colored panels, turning stone walls into a canvas of shifting hues. Scenes of saints, parables, and biblical stories filled the glass, offering lessons to those who could not read. Each pane required careful planning, metal frames to hold the glass, pigments ground from minerals, and patient work by skilled artisans. Carvings held their own mysteries. Gargoyles, with their strange faces and twisted forms, served both as waterspouts and as symbolic protectors. In the margins of stonework, masons sometimes left playful or puzzling figures, small reminders of their presence hidden in plain sight. Builders faced constant challenges of weight and balance. Flying buttresses, graceful arcs reaching outward, may look decorative, yet they carried the massive force of the vaults above. Without them, walls would crack and roofs would fall. To walk through a cathedral was to be surrounded by a design that spoke on many levels: geometry, scripture, symbol, and structure. Each element held purpose, both functional and spiritual, creating a space that felt at once mysterious and ordered. Even now, centuries later, we cannot always explain how every decision was made. Some questions remain open, quiet mysteries left behind by builders who worked slowly, steadily, when without thought that one day their choices would still be studied. While builders labored with stone and timber, life was very different for those who commissioned and used the cathedrals. The clergy and noble patrons experienced these spaces not as workplaces, but as centers of ceremony, power, and prestige. For bishops and abbots, the cathedral was both a house of God and a symbol of their influence. They oversaw its construction, managed funds, and ensured the work continued across years, even decades. Their daily routines were filled with prayers, services, and the administration of lands and wealth. When they entered the rising church, it was not with tools in hand, but with robes of office. Moving through incense-filled halls, nobles too left their mark. Many donated money, land, or materials, and in return their names were recorded in charters or carved into stone. Their gifts secured not only status in life, but also remembrance in death, for cathedrals often became their burial places. To be laid to rest within its walls was a sign of honor, linking their memory to sacred ground. The contrast was striking. While masons endured dust and strain, the elite enjoyed comfort. Meals of bread, meat, and wine, served in halls warmed by fire. Their homes had decorated walls and gardens, while ordinary workers returned to simple, crowded dwellings. Yet both groups were bound together. The toil of the many created the setting for the rituals and prestige of the few. When cathedrals were finally completed, the clergy presided over grand services, surrounded by music, candles, and light filtering through glass. For them, the building embodied triumph, a visible statement of devotion and authority. For the patrons, it stood as a legacy, a lasting monument tied to their name. And though the builders' names are mostly lost, their work endured. Every arch, every carving, every stone bore silent witness to the unity of labor and vision, binding ordinary lives and noble ambition into one enduring structure. As we leave behind the towering walls and quiet mysteries of Gothic cathedrals, it is worth pausing to reflect. These vast structures were not raised by one hand, nor even in one lifetime. They were the result of countless lives: masons, carpenters, glassmakers, priests, and patrons, each leaving a mark, often small, yet together shaping something immense. Imagine the rhythm of their days: clang of chisels, the chanting of prayers, the hum of markets in the shadow of rising towers. All of it was part of a shared world, where faith and ambition, devotion and labor intertwined. Centuries later, these cathedrals still stand. Their spires reach toward the sky, their stones bear the weight of time, and their windows still catch the shifting light of the sun. They remind us that while individual lives are brief, human effort and imagination can leave traces that endure. And now, as you rest, you might allow yourself to picture those quiet spaces once more, the cool air inside, the soft glow of candles, the echo of distant footsteps on stone, a place where time slows and the world feels hushed. The workers have long since laid down their tools. The patrons are long buried, yet the buildings remain calm and still, waiting in silence. And in that silence, there is peace. The same peace you may now let yourself drift toward, carried by the slow passing of history and the comfort of knowing that the world continues, steady and unhurried, as it always has.